Let's start with a small introduction from our end. This is the webinar where we're going to discuss the Google Workspace features of the last quarter. Sometimes we see Q2, but we always look back a quarter. So we look at the most important features of Google Workspace that have been implemented. So it will probably take an hour and to introduce you a bit. Today, we're not with the three of us, we're with the two of us to host it. My name is Wouter Stiekema, and I'm the Customer Success Manager of Google Workspace in the Netherlands. And I'm doing this session together with my colleague Simone.
Hi everyone, I'm the Google Workspace team lead for the Nordics based in Stockholm in Sweden.
Thank you. And today we're going to bring you up to date on Google Workspace updates. And we have three sessions, three parts. Basically, we're going to brief you on communication, on collaboration, and on the technical side, and on the main things we're going to update you on. And we're going to start with communication today. And of course, please feel free to interrupt us if you have any question. That's always fine. And also, it's perfectly fine if you have any questions to put them in the chat. And we always like interactive sessions, so feel free to interrupt us. Simone, handing over to you for the first slides.
Great. Okay. So yes, as Wouter said, we're starting with communication, or the most recent and some upcoming communication updates. So with those recent upcoming updates to the communication products, there's really been a focus on connecting meaningfully. And the changes that Google have made will allow people to essentially communicate more effectively and to help build community. So with that said, the first one, this was a simple change that was made to the workflow in Google Chat. Basically, they have removed, so it's for one-to-one conversations and group conversations. Google have removed the start group conversation step. So now it's much more easy. You can create conversations with your desired number of recipients right away by simply typing the names of the recipients into the new chat straight away to get started. Next slide, Wouter.
Yep.
Perfect. The next one is about Google Calendar. Appointment schedules on Google Calendar, these basically let you share a booking page with people so they can schedule a meeting with you. So for those people who use appointment schedules, you can also now check multiple calendars. So that means including your primary calendar, secondary calendar, and basically any other calendars that you own, manage, or are subscribed to. So even your personal calendar. Sorry,
Simone. Yeah, what I wanted to say was, in the past, I think this way of working, this overview was already improved. I think in the last quarter of the last year, but then in the beginning you couldn't see your own calendar. So maybe you booked a meeting, you booked a slot, and then you had another meeting in your calendar. So I think that the workflow has now really improved.
Exactly. So now basically when you create that booking page, it just helps people or you to avoid any scheduling conflicts. Because before, if you were sharing just looking at your work calendar, for example, but you had a personal calendar or maybe a team calendar or a company calendar, it didn't take those into consideration. So now you're able to select or check in those multiple calendars you want included to show your availability or non-availability, I would say, busy free times. So it just helps to avoid any scheduling conflicts there.
Yeah, and I think this is an underestimated feature of Google Workspace. And I see that now with a lot of colleagues that are using this page for customers, for instance, to book a meeting directly in their calendar now. They added the link even to their signature. I think that's also a really nice feature of meeting with colleagues.
Yeah.
Exactly, Pablo is also saying it. Sharing the link to your calendar.
Yeah, I think, Pablo, you do this very well. Perfect. Next slide. Yep. So basically, with this kind of idea of helping to build, community, Google Chat Space Managers now have some additional capabilities, so they can grant various access and permissions to the various space members. You can do this via the space setting. So this kind of allows you to set up spaces to be more like communities in that sense. So space managers can choose what members can basically do in a chat space. Can they add or remove other members? Can they use the at mention all, for example, in the chat space? It's just, providing more opportunities. So it's just expanding the capabilities there for chat space managers. And this is already launched as well. Wouter, next slide.
Yeah, it takes a while to update.
Yeah, no worries.
Yeah.
Continuing on, more changes in Google Chat. And again, following on the theme of building chat spaces to be more like communities, there is now an upcoming change, if you don't have it already, for top-down organizational communication. This will be enabled with what they call announcements to kind of facilitate that one-way controlled communication in Google Chat. This can be helpful for scenarios, for example, where you might want to use a space for bulletin board-like updates or announcements rather than just a resource for conversations. So with the new announcement-only configuration, posts and other functions are limited to space managers. However, space managers do have the ability to configure the space using the space settings menu. There's also an advanced section in the menu now. So you can decide if only space managers can post, if you could allow external people, which you can already do in the space settings at the moment. But yeah, essentially just locking it down to be that more, top-down, communication, rather if that's what, you're wanting to use the space for. So that's the announcements configuration for Google Chat.
And I think this is quite a new feature, but we wanted to post it on this webinar as well. It will probably start to roll out from this week on, or maybe from the end of this next week, at the beginning of next week. But because it was such a requested feature, we wanted to update you on that on this as well. We see within a lot of huge companies where there's a need for communication. And from maybe top to bottom or another way, and where people just want to communicate their message, and people shouldn't have the ability to react. For instance, it's just sharing a message and that's it. And so these possibilities are now coming to Google Chat.
Exactly. The next one. Exactly. So back to Google Calendar. So Google's basically unifying all the different to-do objects in Google Workspace, and they're doing this by migrating the calendar and assistant reminders to Google Tasks. I know that I think it's just this week that they've released that. So I think it's currently like an opt-in. You can manually do it, but all reminders will be managed only in the Google Tasks app, and there will be an automatic migration from May 22nd. So that's important to note. So it's just, again, to create a more seamless experience. I think there was often confusion between, tasks and reminders, and this just makes it easier that they will all be managed in the Google Tasks app going forward.
And of course, that Google Tasks has also been, updated. I don't think it's the correct word, but have been included in Google Docs, for instance, and even Google Sheets. So you can easily now create tasks from your Google document, and that will also be synced to your task list when opening it from your Gmail interface, for instance. And so there's one unified way for all your tasks in general.
And you can also do this from emails as well. So to create a task or reminder, which will now be a task for yourself from there as well. Yes. And then the last update in terms of the communication products, and there's actually quite a few updates for Meet this time around. But I think the big one, it's my favorite, is actually the new integration with Google Slides and Google Meet. So that allows presenters to view speaker notes while presenting in Meet. And I think this is great because you can essentially focus on your audience, and gives you the confidence to present instead of having to kind of share or split screens. But the way it works is that when you present to a meeting, you will have access to a slides control bar in Meet, where you can choose to display your speaker notes within the call.
Yeah, I think this is also a much requested feature, especially
Yeah.
for people who are working with one laptop, for instance, and don't have a double screen as I have now. But yeah, then you don't have to switch back, and
Exactly.
nice.
Or a split screen on your small laptop screen. So no, it's fantastic. I've used it and I love it. The other one is, there's share access during meetings has been simplified now. So you can now share access to the content that you're presenting in a meeting with your attendees, including everyone also on the calendar guest list. And you can do that directly from the Meet interface. I mentioned the slide controls bar earlier when you're going to share your speaker notes, and this is basically where you can also, it's like a floating action menu, so you can share from there or via the suggestion in the Meet chat that will pop up. So if you paste a link, for example, into the meeting chat, you'll be prompted with it's like a file access pop-up box, instead of, what you'd normally do is share the link, and then you'd have to go into the document or the file itself and go to the share settings. This allows you to do it directly from the Meet interface and share directly from there. So again, a more seamless experience, easier for the presenter, and more efficient as well. In terms of captions, if you're using those in Google Meet, another fantastic feature, you can now have the option to include those captions in a Meet recording. What are some of the other updates we've got? There's 5, I think these have already been launched. So I don't know if you've used them, but there's 5 new immersive backgrounds and also the different styles and filters to try out. In that vein, I know it's further down, but there's also the ability for customers to now, and I know this was a much requested feature, where you can upload custom background images. So just expanding the possibilities there. This one is about Google Meet hardware. So if you use, I think it's called the Series 1 Desk 27 and Board 65 devices, the home screen has been updated, and it features a connect device button as a quick action. So if you're using Google Meet hardware and using those devices, there's now a kind of quick action connect device button that you can use. There's also the noise cancellation updates. It's been expanded to more devices now. So to filter out things like a closing door, if you're taking a meeting on the go, filtering out any traffic noise or construction site noise as you're walking past. So that's always appreciated. And the other thing is external labels. So it shows who your external participants are in Meet. So if I click on the little people icon down below, they have a yellow tag to show that these are external participants in your call. And I think that's all the updates we had for Meet and all the communication product updates.
Thank you, Simone. Then I will take over from the collaboration side. Because also quite some features have been implemented there. And for some, I would like to also give a small demo. So let's see how we can make that work. First of all, is I think a feature that was requested a lot. I did also do a lot of end user training. And this was a feature that was used a lot in Word files, where you can see the non-printing characters on your document. So that's basically now possible. It's very easy. From the view menu, you can now click on show non-printing characters, as you can see here on the GIF. And now you can see where all your enters are, etc. So you can see the paragraphs, lines of breaks, section breaks, etc., tabs, spaces. Everything is now visible. So I think this feature makes a lot of users really happy. To be honest, I never use it myself, but I do see a lot of users within companies using it. Next one, that's some new features on Google Sheets. A lot of new functions have been added. From the top of my mind, 11 in total. 11 new functions have been added, and I have a small example of them here on my other screen. So let me present that. Let me bring that screen here. There we are. Here is one of them. I hope, Simone, is this visible for everyone?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. This is, for instance, one of the new features. This is the to-call feature of a function, I have to say. I have written down a couple of names on 2 rows, I have to say. And now with this new function, is to-call function, I can now select, in this case, the names, and it will put them in a column. And you can customize it a bit, because I've used it's a very simple function with the one. That means, and it will explain on the support page, but the one means that if there's a blank one, it will be skipped, but other decisions can be made as well. This is just a simple new function that has been added, which can, I think, be really useful in using Google Sheets. And several more have been announced. Of course, you can click on this link, and we will share the slide deck to see what features have been implemented. Going to the next one, that's an improvement in filters, and I've also prepared that one. Basically, 2 updates have been announced for filters. I think one is a very handy one, because where I struggle sometimes still a lot with is when a filter has been applied. So, for instance, I filter on my data set, and next time I come in and and I see still a filter has been applied on that sheet. Of course, personal filters have been implemented for that. So it's of course always able to use that. But now, if you've applied a filter, you can also see it here on the bottom of your screen. You can see that the filter has been applied, and now 81 of the 1,602 rows has been displayed. So let me see if I can show you this. If I have a sheet here available, yes, I do, because it's nice. So I can also show the next feature that have been implemented, because now from every cell you can right-click and add a filter. For instance, I can click on create a filter, and as you can see, it automatically adds a filter. I can also remove it, by the way, from this. And when I've added the filter, create a filter, and when I, for instance, filter now, for instance, on department, I say clear, I will only filter on the finance and the engineering department. On the bottom of your screen, you see now that this is a filtered window with 239 of the 1,000 rows displayed. And so this is also a new way of visualizing that you have a filter applied. That should make it easier to filter the data. Also a small new feature. This is, I think, a really important one. I think we've introduced it in our last webinar as well. Then it was a beta. It was introduced as a beta, but now also end users can move files from their My Drive to Share Drive. And in the past, it was quite hard, because only admins could move it. And companies were quite struggling with it now. But as you can see, also end users should be able to move it from a My Drive to a Share Drive. And of course, everyone that is in the Share Drive will then have access to this folder. And so I really like this feature. It was first a beta, but it was brought to production quite fast, as I've seen it. But it makes it really easy for end users and companies to move their data around. Yes. And then a small update, of course, that the interface of Google Drive has changed already. Yeah, I think that's important to note. And now search chips will be added. I think that's also really nice to have it in your Drive interface. Because when I did end user training, I often met people who were struggling with finding their data. And what I always did was I explained the menu that you can click on this small icon here. And then you can search for a specific person who has shared a file. But adding the chips makes it a lot easier because you can just click on it, select a specific file type you were looking for, the period it was shared with you or created. And that makes it just the navigation and the searching of files much easier. And also a feature that's coming. Although I don't think I have it on my own interface yet. I was checking it. Simone, I don't know if you have it already available.
I don't.
No, sometimes
yet.
it takes a while. Yeah, but it was just announced, so I expect it to land in a couple of weeks at the most. So this were the collaboration slides. Then we move into the admin part. We also have a couple of updates on that side. And first of all, it's an update on the API activity, because now you have a single overview, and that's within the Google Cloud Console. That's important to note here, where you can view all the API activity that's related to Google Workspace. And if you're interested, I advise you to watch this video. It really explains it very well. That from the Google Cloud interface, you now have an overview where you can see all the APIs that are being used. And how we always explain it is that one of the best things about Google Workspace, it's really an open platform. So there are a lot of APIs that can be used. And this overview gives you a lot of information on not only on accessing it and who was able to access it, but you can also monitor it, how many APIs are being used. So I think it's a really powerful new overview for the technical side of the use of APIs. And that's the movie that I don't want to start now. Another one is about the warning banners. Probably people of you have seen all kinds of warning banners for instance, external people. And there's a new way in the Google admin panel that you can bypass that. So you don't see that window anymore. And what we see that it's used for is, for instance, if you have a campaign within your company and you want to prevent that an external banner is being viewed, that's now possible to implement. So it's a small thing, and it's being integrated in already the view for the spam filter. There's already, of course, a feature available for your spam filter, and you can now use this banner window now for that. Also a small addition. And this is also a setting for more Google Cloud, but it's, as you know, probably in a lot of cases, if you would like to access Google Cloud, that's being administered from the Google Workspace side. And now what they've did is the session lengths have been improved. So it's now session lengths of 16 hours for existing Google Cloud customers. So the goal is to make it a lot safer, so that people have to log on again after 16 hours to improve the security for the customers. So this is not for Google, for instance, for Gmail. This is really for Google Cloud. The last one, I believe, is the ability to install chat apps. There are a lot of companies who have other applications that should integrate with Google Chat. I believe, for instance, Zendesk is one of them. And you can now install these applications from the Google admin panel. While in the past, a user had to do him herself. So now you can, by default, for your entire domain, connect an app to Google Chat, which is also, I think, a nice feature. And in the Workspace marketplace, you can find the specific apps and you can connect them. So if you need more information, feel free to click on the link and it will give you all the details. You see on this see an example of the PagerDuty app, and that's one of them that you could implement. But of course, this is for external applications, and you would need to have a license for these applications yourself. So I think that sums up our most important updates. Of course, as said before, we will also share this blog post, this slide deck, and we also updated our blog post in that. So, for instance, a new one is about conditional aware access on a cloud application, and how to set it up. And of course, also a new one is on using GAM for your Google Workspace platform. That's a command line tool for managing your Google Workspace. So that's also a tip. So if you see this slide deck, feel free to click on the links so you get more information on all sides of Google Workspace. And that sums up our presentation.
I'm actually just going to share the link for the blog posts here. So this is to our website and gives you a link directly to the blogs. I'm sure we got lots of questions. If anyone's got any questions about the material that was presented or anything else, feel free to ask, raise your hand, or write it in the chat.
I think, Pablo, it's fine to stop the recording now.
I actually did see a question that somebody posted in the registration sheet. I'm just going to write it here if I can find it. You might be able to help here, Wouter. Is GCPW, will GCPW get support for Windows 11? Don't know if the person who asked the question is in the session, or if anyone.
I need to check that. Let's check that question then with a colleague, one of our technical colleagues.
Great, thank you, Steve. Thanks, Pablo. It works. So.
Okay. Great.
Steve would love to see a GCPW for Mac.
Thank you, Angelo. I think that concludes our meeting of today. Thank you all for joining, and I hope to see you next time.
If you do have any questions, feel free to reach out to either of us or your Google Workspace contact in your country. Thank you for today. Kim Nielsen, I can see you're in the session here. Hello. Always good to see you in these. If anyone who's left has a question they'd like to ask it, feel free.
Oh, he's in the office.
And you just made it. Sergio, you're probably off getting a coffee, so I'm going to close out the call and move.
Yep.
Yeah, can you stop the recording, Pablo?
Yeah. Oh, no, I'm just going to remove them. That's fine. Recording. And there we go. Stop.
Where are you, Pablo?